John, after death, was led to hell. The devil announced that they would lead the sinner to see 3 different punishments and had to choose one. The first room, the criminal was tortured in an oil cauldron. The second room, the sinner was burned on a blazing fire. Too scared, he asked to go to the last room. There, he saw an elderly patient, terminally ill, AIDS, wheezing in bed. He was being cuddled, stroked, and kissed by a young, beautiful girl. John begged hurriedly to enter the room. The demon immediately led him in and said to the girl, "You go out now. This guy has come to replace you." 3 cowboys are settling down after a long day herding cattle. The first cowboy says, "You know, it takes a real man's man to do this job. I must be the meanest, toughest cowboy there is. Why? Just the other day, a bull got loose in the corral and gored 6 men before I wrestled it to the ground by the horns with my bare hands." The second cowboy, not to be outdone, shakes his head and replies, "You think that's tough? Why, I was walking down the trail yesterday, and a 15-foot-long rattler slid out from under a rock and made a move for me. I grabbed that snake with my bare hands and bit its head off and sucked the poison down in one gulp. And I'm still here today." The first and second cowboys glance over expectantly at the third cowboy, but he just smiles and says nothing, slowly stirring the coals with his 2 70-year-old men, Mike and Joe, have been friends all of their lives. When it's clear that Joe is dying, Mike visits him every day. One day Mike says, "Joe, we both loved football all our lives, and we played football on Saturdays together for so many years. Please do me one favor. When you get to heaven, somehow you must let me know if there's football there." Joe looks up at Mike from his deathbed. "Mike, you've been my best friend for many years. If it's at all possible, I'll do this favor for you." Shortly after that, Joe sadly passes on. At midnight, a couple of nights later, Mike is awakened from a sound sleep by a blinding flash of white light and a voice calling out to him, "Mike! Mike!" "Who is it?" "It's me, Joe." "Joe, where are you?" "In heaven," replies Joe. "I have some really good news and a little bad news." "Tell me the good news first," says Mike. "The good news," Joe says, "is that there's football in heaven. Better yet, all of our old friends who died before us are here too. Better than that, we're all young again. Better still, it's always springtime, and it never rains or snows. Our wives are there too, and young and pretty as ever. And best of all, we can play football all we want, and we never get tired." "That's fantastic," says Mike. "It's beyond my wildest dreams. So what's the bad news?" "You're in the team for this Saturday." A football coach noticed that his star tackle, Bubba, had so many women hanging around that he couldn't possibly handle all of them. So one day he asked, "Bubba, just what the hell is your secret?" Bubba replies, "Well, coach, whenever I'm about to have sex, I always whip it out and bang it on the dresser like a hammer. This numbs it and I can screw 'em forever." The coach went home early one day and went to the bedroom. He heard his wife in the shower. Seeing a window of opportunity, he took off his clothes and started banging his manhood on the dresser. His wife stuck her head out of the shower and asked, "Is that you, Bubba?" A police officer sees a trail of $50 notes leading to an old woman with 2 bags of trash. Curious, he approaches the woman and asks, "Excuse me, ma'am, but one of your bags has a hole." The woman thanks him profoundly, but he, still curious, asks, "Hope you don't mind me snooping around, but where did you get all that money?" "Well, you see, Mr. Officer, I have a lovely house at the end of the street, and it just so happens to be right next to a very famous bar. I don't mind the noise, but every night there are always some drunkards that piss all over my garden. So yesterday night I stood there with my pruning shears, and whenever someone got their dick out, I'd say, $50 or I'll cut it off." Laughing at the amusing idea, the police officer lets her go about her way, but jokingly asks, Is the second bag filled with money, too? To which the old lady responds, Oh, you know, Mr. Officer, not everyone pays. A construction worker was working on site at a monastery, renovating a bathroom. As he was tightening some screws, a pipe burst, drenching him in water. The Mother Superior gave him permission to use the monastery's shower and changing room to freshen up. However, the Mother Superior specifically instructed him to be careful, since most of the nuns were very devoted in their faith and had never seen a man naked. The construction worker was very dirty after the incident, so he took 1 bar of soap in each hand as he went into the shower. Just when he was about to turn on the shower, he heard 3 nuns walking into the changing room and starting to undress. The man panicked as he heard the nuns drop their last garments. He looked around frantically but had nowhere to go. Lacking a better option, he froze to the wall, stiff as a statue. As the beautiful young nuns entered the shower, they were surprised by the strangely lifelike statue. They gathered around to inspect it from head to toe. "This statue must be new. It's still muddy from the transport," said one of the nuns. "It looks so real." "But what's that?" asked one of the nuns and pointed at the construction worker's groin. "I don't know," said one of the nuns, who then walked up and suddenly pulled his penis. The nun's unexpected action shocked the fit construction worker so much that he dropped one of the bars of soap he was holding. "Ah!" exclaimed one of the nuns. "It's a soap dispenser!" The second nun walked up to the statue and pulled its penis as well. The construction worker had no idea what to do, so he dropped the second soap. The third nun wanted to try it as well. She pulled once, but nothing happened. So she tried pulling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and suddenly exclaimed loudly, "Look! I got liquid soap!" A train machinist, a ship captain, and a truck driver are sitting in a bar and sharing their stories. The ship captain: Our house is close to the harbor, so every time I am back from sailing and my ship is passing our house, I give the honk. So every time I am home, the food is on the table, my wife is hot and ready, and I get my special welcome home treatment. The train machinist: Same here. We live close to the railroad, so when coming back from a long trip, I signal when passing by our house, and when I come home, my wife greets me in lingerie, with dinner on the table and bed warmed and ready for us. The truck driver: Yeah, almost same here. Our house is downhill in the street, so whenever I come back home, I shut off the engine on the hill, roll down to the house, take my wrench, ring on the front door, and run to the back door. None of them has escaped yet. A Chinese man was sitting at the bar when a Jewish man came up and punched him in the nose. He grabs his nose and says, "What was that for?" The Jewish man says, "That's for Pearl Harbor." The Chinese man exclaims, "Pearl Harbor? I'm Chinese. That was the Japanese." To which the Jewish man replies, "Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese. They're all the same." The Chinese man sits at the bar getting angrier and angrier. Finally, he can take no more and goes and punches the Jewish man in his nose and says, "That's for the Titanic." The Jewish man is puzzled. The Titanic? Goldberg, Steinberg, iceberg. They're all the same, replies the Chinese man. An Air Force cargo plane was preparing for departure from Thule Air Base in Greenland. They were waiting for the truck to arrive to pump out the aircraft's sewage holding tank. The aircraft commander was in a hurry, the truck was late in arriving, and the airman performing the job was extremely slow in getting the tank pumped out. When the commander berated the airman for his slowness and promised punishment, the airman responded, "Sir, I have no stripes. It is 20 below zero. I'm stationed in Greenland, and I am pumping sewage out of airplanes. Just what are you going to do to punish me?" Two women friends had gone out for a girls' night out and had been over-enthusiastic on the cocktails. Incredibly drunk and walking home, they suddenly realized they both needed to pee. They were very close to a graveyard, and one of them suggested they do their business behind a headstone or something. The first woman had nothing to wipe with, so she took off her panties, used them, and threw them away. Her friend, however, was wearing an expensive underwear set and didn't want to ruin hers, but was lucky enough to salvage a large ribbon from a wreath that was on a grave and proceeded to wipe herself with it. After finishing, they made their way home. The next day, the first woman's husband phones the other husband and says, "These girls' nights out have got to stop. My wife came home last night without her panties." "That's nothing," said the other. "Mine came back with a sympathy card stuck between the cheeks of her backside that said, 'From all of us at the fire station, we'll never forget you.'" A blind man walks into a restaurant and takes a seat. The owner, who's also the waiter, hands him a menu. The man kindly says, "I'm blind, sir. I can't read the menu. Just bring me a used fork from another table and I'll figure it out." Confused but curious, the owner brings over a fork from the pile of dirty dishes. The blind man sniffs it and says, "Perfect. I'll have the meatloaf with mashed potatoes." The owner is stunned and rushes to tell his wife, who does the cooking. A few days later, the blind man returns. Once again, the owner hands him a menu out of habit. The man gently reminds him, "Remember me? I'm the blind man." Realizing his mistake, the owner fetches another used fork. After a quick sniff, the man confidently orders, "Ah, that smells good. Macaroni and cheese with broccoli." Still baffled, the owner plans a little test. The next week, when the blind man walks in, the owner hurries to the kitchen and tells his wife, "Hey, Mary, rub this fork on your underwear before I take it to him." Mary, though puzzled, goes along with the prank. When the blind man sniffs the fork, he pauses and then grins. "I didn't know Mary worked here." A group of Boeing employees are sitting on a plane getting ready for takeoff. The pilot comes on over the intercom and says, "Folks, we're pleased to have you flying with us on our brand new 737, fresh from our good friends at Boeing." Immediately, the Boeing employees all scramble to get out of their seats and off the plane as quickly as possible. It's utter pandemonium in the aisles as everyone starts to panic. Everyone, that is, except for one old man, who remains sitting in his seat, quiet and unbothered. A junior executive looks at the old man and says, "Didn't you hear the announcement? If we don't get off now, this plane might fall apart mid-air." The old man says, "Sir, I've been an engineer at Boeing for over 30 years. I've been there through all of the ups and downs, the cost-cutting and outsourcing, the bad times and the good. And if I know how this company operates today, I can say with absolute certainty, there's no chance this plane will even leave the ground." Ole and Sven were returning to New York after a visit to Europe. They were enjoying a nice, relaxing flight when the captain's voice came over the loudspeaker. "Folks, I just wanted to inform you that one of the engines has quit. There is no danger whatsoever as the 747 can easily fly on 3 engines, but we will be 1 hour late into New York." About 1/2 hour later, the captain announced, "Folks, we've lost a second engine. We are still safe, but we will be 2 hours late into New York." About 1/2 hour later, the captain came back on the loudspeaker. "Folks, I don't know what's going on, but we've lost a third engine. Don't panic. The 747 has been designed to fly safely on only one engine, but we will be 3 hours late into New York." At this point, Ole looked at Sven and said, "You know, Sven, if that last engine goes out, we could be up here all night." A few days after Christmas, a mother was working in the kitchen listening to her young son playing with his new electric train in the living room. She heard the train stop, and her son said, "All of you SOBs who want off, get the hell off now, because this is the last stop. And all of you SOBs who are getting on, get your backsides on the train, because we're going down the tracks." The mother went nuts and told her son, "We don't use that kind of language in this house. Now I want you to go to your room, and you are to stay there for 2 hours. When you come out, you may play with your train, but I want you to use nice language." 2 hours later, the son comes out of the bedroom and resumes playing with his train. Soon the train stopped, and the mother heard her son say, "All passengers who are disembarking from the train, please remember to take all of your belongings with you. We thank you for riding with us today and hope your trip was a pleasant one. We hope you will ride with us again soon." She hears the little boy continue, "For those of you just boarding, we ask you to stow all of your hand luggage under your seat. Remember, there is no smoking on the train. We hope you will have a pleasant and relaxing journey with us today." As the mother began to smile, the child added, "For those of you who are cheesed off about the 2-hour delay, please see the bitch in the kitchen." A local bar was so sure that its barman was the strongest man in the village that they offered a standing £1,000 bet. The barman would squeeze a lemon until all the juice ran out and challenge any man to squeeze out another drop. Weightlifters and arm wrestlers, they all tried and lost the bet. Then one day, a scrawny wee man, if he stood sideways you would not see him, wearing scratched glasses and a 10-year-old polyester suit walked in and said, "I'd like to take on the bet." After the laughter had died down, the barman said, "Okay," grabbed the lemon and squeezed away. Then he handed the wrinkled remains of the lemon rind to the little man. But the crowd's laughter turned to total silence as the wee man clenched his little fist around the lemon and squeezed it, and a drop fell into the glass. Then he squeezed some more, and another drop fell from the lemon. Without a word, the wee man squeezed some more, and a third drop fell into the glass. The crowd in the bar were astonished and speechless. As the barman paid the £1,000 bet, he asked, "What do you do for a living? Are you a lumberjack, a metal worker, a weightlifter, or what?" The little man quietly replied, "I'm a tax collector." When a group of tourists visited a crocodile farm, the owner of the place launched a daring proposal. "Whoever dares to jump, swim to shore, and survive, I will give $1 million nobody dared to move." Suddenly, a man jumped into the water and desperately swam towards the shore while he was chased by all the crocodiles. With great luck, he arrived, taking the admiration of everyone in the place. Then the owner announced, "We have a brave winner." After collecting their reward, the couple returned to the hotel upon arrival. The manager told him he was very brave to jump. Then the man said, "I didn't jump. Someone pushed me." His wife smiled. Moral: behind every successful man, there is a woman who pushes him. An Aussie and a Maori walk into a bakery. The Aussie steals 3 pastries and slips them into his pocket. He turns to the Maori and says, "Pretty slick, aye, bro?" The owner didn't even see me. Unimpressed, the Maori replies, "Typical dishonest Aussie, bro. I'm going to show you the honest way and still get the same result." The Maori calls out to the owner of the shop and says, "Bro, I want to show you a magic trick." Intrigued, the owner comes over. The Maori asks him for a pastry, which the owner gives him, and the Maori eats it. He asks for another and eats that, too. He asks for a third and eats it as well. The owner says, "Come on, mate. Where's the magic trick?" The Maori points to the Aussie and says, "Check his pockets, is..." A teacher asked her 5th grade class to talk to their parents about life events in their families that demonstrate a moral. For example, the early bird gets the worm. They would share the stories in class on Monday. Monday morning saw the class ready to begin, and the teacher asked if anyone had any stories to share that had a moral to it. Little Johnny jumps to his feet, waving both of his hands wildly. Little Johnny didn't have a good reputation for sharing stories that were appropriate for a 5th grade class, so the teacher tried her best to ignore Johnny. Little Mary put her hand up and the teacher called on her. She told a story of being sent out to collect eggs in the chicken coop. She brought with her a single basket. After collecting all the eggs available, she headed back to show her mother how well she did. But she tripped on the way in, falling on the basket and breaking all the eggs. The teacher asked what the moral of the story was. Mary said, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is a very good example." "Thank you for sharing, Mary." Anyone else have a story? Little Johnny again is going wild trying to get the teacher's attention. The teacher tries to ignore him, but no one else raises their hand to volunteer a story. So the teacher had to relent and ask little Johnny what his story was. Johnny starts off by saying that his Aunt Sue is a military fighter jet pilot. Little Johnny's dad told him about one of Aunt Sue's missions during recent conflicts. When Aunt Sue flew missions, she always carried with her an automatic rifle with lots of ammo, a large knife, and a bottle of whiskey. She likes to drink the whiskey flying back after the mission to celebrate. On this particular mission, Aunt Sue's jet was hit by an enemy missile. She had to eject from the fighter. Coming down with her parachute, she worried about her bottle of whiskey. What if it breaks when she lands? So, she drank the whole bottle. As she got closer to the ground, she saw 50 enemy soldiers with their rifles pointed at her. So, she begins shooting the soldiers with her rifle. She kills 40 of them before she runs out of ammo. Landing on the ground, Aunt Sue pulled out her knife and killed the remaining 10 enemy soldiers. The teacher was aghast. What possible life moral could you possibly have from this terrible story? Little Johnny smiled and said, "Don't screw with Aunt Sue if she's been drinking." The teacher passed out. An elderly couple was sitting in their broken-down car on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck. The tow truck arrives and the driver walks up to the car as the old man who was driving rolls down his window. Driver: "Hello, folks. What seems to be the problem?" Elder lady: "What?" Elder man: "Sorry, my wife is hard of hearing." Then he looks at his wife and yells out, "He asked what the problem was." Elder lady: "I think we ran out of gas." Driver: "No problem. I can tow you to the nearest gas station. It's only about 5 miles away." Elder lady: "What?" Elder man: "He said he will tow us to the nearest gas station." Elder lady: "Okay, thank you." As the driver was hooking up the car to the tow truck, he decided to make conversation. Driver: "So where are you folks from?" Elder lady: "What?" Elder man: "He asked where we're from." Elder lady: "Birmingham, Alabama." Driver: "Birmingham. I lived there many, many years ago. Met a woman who was probably the worst of my life." Elder lady: "What?" Elder man: "He said he thinks he knows you."